going on, everyone? It's your guy, Cole Jackson, back with another episode, another heart-wrenching, my shirt was just off again episode of WTFlock Postgame Show. We're going to be giving you instant analysis and breakdown from the Ravens' thrilling defeat of the Detroit Lions. If you're enjoying these instant breakdowns and analysis, click the like button and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. I'd like to thank the sponsors of the WTFlock Postgame Show. Last week, we were talking about them partying after beating KC. I can't even imagine what's happening in that place right now. It's Lee's Pint and Shell, located right in the heart of Baltimore. Lee's is your go-to for game day with their game day specials. $4 Bud Light drafts, $15 Michelob Ultra buckets, $12 Modelo Corona Pony buckets, and $20 White Claw buckets. I'll drop all the information below. Be sure to check them out. And for sure, give them a follow on Twitter and Instagram. They're your go-to location for the Ravens game day. And now over to my post-game co-host. It's Adam Bonacorsi. Adam, what the flock just happened?
So I'll tell you, we jump in here, and I'm doing this, and I'm checking my hair and beard to see if I've added any gray after last week's game and now this week's, and really week 1 OT. Yeah, you're a little something going there.
It's bad.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Oh, I can't even with that field goal and so
you gotta ask, guys, when you're listening, when you're watching, drop a comment below and let me know. When that ball hit the upright based on the depth of the TV, I went down to my knees because it seriously looked like it hit the front and bounced back towards Tucker like a good 10 yards. And so I'm just on my knees, like just defeated. And then the ref's arms go up. Like, was I the only one seeing that?
No, I mean I'm with you because that's what I saw too. I saw it bounce and it looked like it went past the end zone, like back out into the field of play. But then you see it kind of drop behind the screen, and then you see the arms go up, and it took a lot. Exactly. There's words. I'm doing the thing where you struggle with the words. Wow, that was an incredible way to end the game. And before jumping on, I mentioned to you, it felt like a game where the horseshoe was nowhere near us this week as far as any lucky bounces with the drops and with certain plays going against their favorite. Tyus Bowser dropping a pick. And just so much not going the Ravens' way to end that way is just unreal. Absolutely unreal.
It felt therapeutic, like the football gods do exist. And I mean, this was, if you look up trap game in a dictionary, this was your trap game. It was a couple things need to be there for a trap game. It needs to be a favored opponent by a significant margin. I think that's a check. I mean, I think the Ravens were favored 8.5 points in Vegas, but we all know the Ravens should have won that game by a lot more. So check that box. Coming off an emotional win, I think that's always important because, it's hard to calm down as a team. And you check that box, KC win last week. And the third box is playing on the road, which I think is an underrated one. I was talking to my guy, AC Slade, before the game, and he said, this is one of those games where you just get in there, get it done, and get out because, it's after an emotional win, and now you're going on the road. And all three of those boxes got checked. I'd say that's a trap game.
What's even more interesting is that it felt like a trap game all week. And, I did a thing this morning with the Ravens Delaware affiliate, just having a discussion about the Ravens game. And we were discussing how the game still felt like it was going to be a notable Ravens win, despite all the COVID losses, despite the injuries they had. And even going into this game, watching a couple more guys go out in the game, Dalen Hayes go, and we'll get there. But seeing all of this happen, I don't think at any point did I feel like, this is going to be an issue for them. You just continually felt like even up through halftime, all right, they got the lead, they'll come out, they'll score, it'll be fine. And then as you progressed, it was that dog in the burning down house where you're like, this is fine. It just, you could feel it and you're like, oh my God. And then of course I'm the worst emotional tweeter. I am awful at emotional tweeting during the game, but look, we're all fans, right? This is what we do. A lot, kudos to anybody who can stay rational and level-headed. I get heated, right? You get heated watching this stuff and thinking, what the hell is going on with this team? And then all of that built-up emotion to come back and win it on a doink and in 67-yard field goal, again for Tucker to win a game with a field goal of a ridiculous length in Detroit. I can't even express what that feels like right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where the at freezing cold takes has the Glenn Davis licking his lips gif anytime people are tweeting during the game. It happens. I certainly do it. So let's get right into it. Let's get into the offense. But before we do that, Adam, I have to ask, do you have any fun events coming up this week, specifically ones of the alcoholic variety?
So we talked last week about it, but now we're just a couple days away, and I'm getting pretty excited for Lee's Pint and Shell's whiskey event on September 28th next week, or I guess this week. We're 2 days out. It's going to be featuring Blanton's Eagle Rare 10-year and the Buffalo Trace, and then you'll get both featured cocktails and 3 1-ounce pour flights of each bourbon, and there's some featured finger food, some giveaways you'll have out there while you're at the Pint. You can go online, purchase tickets at their website, leepintandshell.com, or jump on their Instagram or Twitter, and you'll find the links there to go get tickets. And I hope to see you guys there.
And I'll be dropping all those links down below because it sounds like a heck of an event. And again, I might have to jump the border to get down there. So let's get right into the offense. Let's get right into the heart of it. I think the biggest takeaway for me, I mean, let's not ignore the elephant in the room. This game should have been 24-0 at halftime. Like Lamar Jackson was dropping balls in a bucket. It was the most consistent I've seen him place balls. If you go, I can't wait to see NFL.com drops that heat chart where it basically shows where all of his targets landed. It's going to be dotted all outside the numbers because he was pushing the ball to the sidelines. That's what was there. And I mean, Marquise Brown, what the flock, man. Like that's, I try not to rag on guys and that's not my intention, but like everyone's going to go at Lamar for the interception. And I get it. I mean, it's an ugly interception. Nobody wants to see it. He basically tried to throw one up with pressure and, maybe for once in the last 20 years, or well, I shouldn't say that. For once since 2012, maybe a receiver could go up and make a big play. I'm not going to disrespect Anquan Bolden like that. But it felt like that type of throw. It's kind of like, it was going to be a punt anyway. They got it down to it was kind of a thrown punt. It is what it is. But he was looking for his guy to go make a play. And so, the fact that no one even really went up for it, it's just it just hurts. Cause Lamar takes the heat and then it's like, well, we shouldn't even have been here. Like, how are you dropping two would have been touchdowns. Absolutely. And the other would have been, 50 yards, 40 yards. Like, come on, man.
The other one would have been inside the red zone. So yeah, I mean, there's 3 scoring opportunities dropped there. And it's funny, that play you're talking about, the Lamar interception. So you look at it from one angle, it looks like he overthrew Sammy Watkins. You look at it from another angle, it looks like Marquise Brown either didn't jump up to make an attempt at that ball, or he's so diminutive, his version of jumping up to make a play just looks like any other dude standing out there. But you had 2 receivers within 2 yards of each other where that ball went. So you can split the difference as far as I'm concerned about who deserves the blame in that play. Lamar wasn't the best throw, or it was a good throw, and Hollywood didn't jump up. And look, we'll never really know. We can pick it apart. We'll go back and watch the replay on all 22. It doesn't matter. The coaches know, Lamar knows, the receivers know how that play should have gone down. But it's also one of those plays where I watch it and I'm like, under my breath mumbling, of course, angry, mumbling. If we had Bateman out here, Rashad Bateman would have caught that ball. Rashad Bateman would have went up for that one. So, but hey, reinforcements are coming there, so we're not too far off. But those 3 drops by Hollywood were huge in this game. And Sammy Watkins had one that was almost a short touchdown. The defender got in there with some fingertips, and it's bang bang, right? If you see a ball coming and you're a receiver and you put your hands out and the fingertip gets in there, that adjustment to make even just that little bit, it's hard to identify. So I'm not mad at Watkins for that. But it was another one of those balls where Lamar just put it on the money, could not have put it in a better spot. And, this game really felt like it should have been 24-0, like you said at the half. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the other thing is, it's not that I'm not necessarily blaming Watkins for that one either, but you get that feeling. It's like you see like a Terry McLaurin make that insane where he twisted to the sideline and
up over the defender.
It's just like the Ravens never seem to get that big play from their receiver, and it's just like I know it's asking a lot, but come on, we're in the NFL here. Let's just make a big play. But one thing I do want to acknowledge on Sammy Watkins, who made the catch that got us down into field goal range. Well, I don't even know if I'm calling that field goal range. That's outside field goal range. But the guy that got us down there was Watkins, and Watkins also made another big catch. And I said this earlier in the week, his numbers may not be impressive, but Sammy Watkins is making plays in high leverage moments. And if you go back to the Chiefs game, he had a drop and then he immediately made a huge catch. about 3 or 4 plays later. And so it's that type of veteran presence that Sammy Watkins is bringing. It doesn't really matter if he's not your number one receiver. He's not like look at Marquise Brown, who hasn't been in the league that long. He has a drop, clearly gets in his own head. Like I don't think you can say technique wise that he just can't. Well, it's got to be yips. Like we know he can catch the ball. Even in Oklahoma, everyone talked about how he had drop issues. His drop numbers weren't even that bad. So like he doesn't really have quote unquote bad hands. It seems like he has a lot of mental issues with catching the ball where he gets in his own head. If you think back to 2020 after the Soldier tweet, he had about 2-3 games where he had 4 drops, and then after that they went away. So you can't tell me that like he just has bad hands in general. I think he gets yippy, and I think that's what we saw tonight.
Yeah, so he'll be on the jugs machine all week. I don't have any doubt about that. But what I like about Sammy Watkins, kind of back to that point, is that I feel like it's only 3 weeks in, and I feel like Lamar's really established a trust with him too, right? So he's always going to look for Hollywood and Andrews first. There's no doubt about that in my mind. But he trusts Watkins as that third option, which is something I feel like we haven't had a ton of. I guess Snead kind of in the same capacity, but he trusts Watkins, right? And I like that. And he's already got that report with him, and that's a good thing to see because I guarantee you that defense out there today was thinking, hey, the Lions defense and that big play, that 4th and forever, was thinking, all right, make sure we're doubling up Hollywood, make sure we're doubling up Andrews. And Sammy sneaks in behind a defender in the ball. And Lamar, great throw, right? Drops it right over the defender, right into Sammy's chest. And then he just keeps turn about face and keep on going. And those things will stick with Lamar Jackson and know, hey, I can come back to you in these kind of plays and make sure I'm hitting you there. And I feel confident you'll get those balls.
Yeah, and on that note, in terms of trusted options, like thank God Mark Andrews is back because he was wide open all game, it felt like. And after the Brown struggles, we hit Andrews on like 2 deep crossers that went for significant. I think he had 5 catches for 104 yards. Like yep. he was just on his game, and that was your vintage. We need big plays, and Mark Andrews delivered. So shout out to him. He was kind of quiet in the first 2 weeks. I think actually last week he was quiet in terms of production, but I think he caught all of his targets. So I mean, he's making plays. He got paid. He's making blocks in the run game. So kudos to Andrews for having that big breakout game.
Yeah, absolutely. 5 catches on 7 targets this week. So, and the one, I had a couple people chirping at me saying it was a drop. I don't know. Andrews dropped it. He stretched out for a ball, tried to pull it in, hit the ground, the ball popped. So it was a tough catch, but I'd say 50-50 on those. He's catching those anyway. So I'm not mad at him, right? And what I do like to see on that offense is that Lamar didn't shy away from these guys when they were dropping balls or missing opportunities there where he's putting it right in the breadbasket. Lamar was going back to his guys. He wasn't afraid to do it. And I'm glad that, the play calling today allowed Lamar to do that, especially with the run being a little ineffective today. Yeah,
and that was kind of the irony is at the start of the game, like I'm not a fan of I like rotating the running backs. I think it's important. And I think, when you go back to Dobbins and Gus in 2020, you could see it, but we're talking like series rotation, maybe, right. A couple of plays and then a rotation. First drive of the game, 3 plays, 3 different running backs. I'm not a big fan of that. I think Tyson Williams can be that guy for you. He barely got the ball today, and I think that's a huge mistake by Greg Roman.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like Tyson Williams, and pardon me here because volume. Tyson Williams only 5 carries today. I don't get it, right? I don't want to pretend I get it. I don't know what the reason is for that. But Latavius Murray got carrying him. One thing I did notice today, and maybe I either refused to notice or just really haven't paid much attention to, Latavius Murray and Donta Freeman tippy-toeing a good bit back there behind the line of scrimmage, and they're not just taking that first cut and hitting the hole. And that's this line and this offense thrives on that, right? And if you're going to tippy-toe behind the line, or, you pointed out to me earlier during this game when we were chatting about a specific cut that Murray made when he didn't have to. So it's almost like they're freelancing a little too much. They're in their own heads. I'm hoping that they come around. But look, as it stands right now, and I will gladly eat this crow all day, if the Ravens don't feel that those two are the right options for this offense, they still have Le'Veon Bell sitting down there and they can change it up. But what I want to see, though, is more Tyson Williams, because when he has the ball in his hand, he has the ability to be electric. He's decisive. He knows this offense well. There's no reason to take that thing out of his hands, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I think that's an easy adjustment that they need to make. Nothing. So the play you're talking about, it was the second drive, third down,
Yep.
3rd and 2. Murray tried to bounce it outside to the right, and it was funny because you had that tweet about running it up Power's butt. But I mean, if he cuts back left there, I think it might have been duo, could have been zone. We'll see on the replay, but it doesn't really matter. Is the fact was Murray tried to bounce it when he could have cut back inside and he would have had it first. So, as much as we want to say, why is Greg Roman running the ball? I mean, it's one of those things where the play's there and the guys have to execute and use their vision. So I think overall, Greg Roman had a few weak moments in this game, but overall thought he called a fine game. I mean, they attacked them through the air, and that was clearly the way to go. The thing that I noticed most about the Lions in terms of how they played the Ravens run game, they were very disciplined in their rush lanes against the run. And so what that means is it's very hard to do counter. It's very hard to do options because the guys you're trying to deceive with the, where you have counters, where you have false pulls, that's supposed to draw guys out of their rush lanes and open lanes for the runner. So either Lamar or the running back, or on options, like guys just were staying in tight and reading their rush lane rather than trying to chase the ball. And so it didn't open up any ground for the run game. So what I would have done is straight up just zone and duo inside. And when they did do those concepts, they had success. So I think it was, getting into that groove early. A lot, if you go back to the first 2 drives, a lot of those runs, it's counters, it's, giving it on the outside to Freeman and like that kind of stuff. And I just, you shouldn't be 3 drives into the game and Devontae Freeman, your third round or your third back, has more carries than Tyson Williams. Like, it's not just, so that to me was the failure. I thought the pass game was great. I thought he called play action really well. I haven't seen the numbers, but it seemed like they threw quite a bit on first down, especially with play action, which is a nice little adjustment that we've been calling for. Overall, I thought he had a fine game.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess, what was it? So the Ravens field goal inside the red zone was their first non-touchdown score in 19 straight drives, something ridiculous like that, right? So those are the plays that I look at more so, right? I can beat up the running back split situation all day, especially the Devonta Freeman thing. Honestly, I think Devonta Freeman's going down. It would not shock me. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I could see it. I think Bell had a tweet today with a little cat doing a pacing upset. So Lave's not going to kick around. So it's either he's playing against Denver or he's probably off the squad.
And that's exactly what I think we're looking at right now. Because again, I kind of go back to that, field goal inside the red zone thing, right? And how that was a big difference in this game. And if you get a guy out there, if you have another option like Le'Veon Bell, and again, I'll eat crow because I've said for a while I don't think he belongs out here. But if you can get a guy like him who has a couple different facets of his game that can help you out versus having a Freeman in there at that point in time, look, every little bit helps in this offense right now, especially after a game like this when you came away with 1 touchdown and 4 field goals. So and a missed field goal. So It's not good, right? You need to figure out something to tweak, and maybe that's the tweak next week. But regardless, I'm hoping to see primarily Tyson Williams out there and then Murray second, and let's see who the third option is at that point in time. And I know McCrary's still floating out there. And something I think about if you move Bell up and you can add him to the practice squad, bring him back to the team. But it's another story for another day.
And before we move into the D, I want to give a little bit on the offensive line. I thought overall they played pretty well. They lost some blocks at the end of the game. I think for the breakdown, I'm going to focus more on the second half pass protection. It seemed to kind of fall through, and I can't really tell you off the top of my head who it was, but the unit as a unit, they kind of gave up some pressure, gave up some sacks. So that was not good. I think in the run game, I think what you're going to see when you go back and see the numbers of where the Lions had the box stacked, they were stopping the Ravens run game. They were coming to bring 8 against a 5-man offensive line. So I think that was a focus of their game plan, and it's why the pass game worked. So in terms of the run blocking, I don't think they necessarily played great by any means, but I also don't think they played bad. I think, anytime you're running into a stacked box, you just have a numbers game against you. So again, we'll see when we get to the film if it was guys losing one-on-ones. It didn't look like it to me. It looked like they were just platooning the gaps. And, like I said, you just have a numbers game, but that opens up your pass game. And, we had guys running wide open, quite literally into the end zone and dropping the ball. So, overall, I thought the offensive line played pretty well. Villanueva played well. McCary lost a few reps. I did see that. AV had, we talked about it. There was that sack where AV pushed his guy literally all the way around, and Lamar stepped up right. So as he's pushing his guy around the pocket, Lamar rushes up to the right, and it's right into. So, it's one of those, I'm picking this play specifically because it's a great conversation. Is that a sack? As a guy that played offensive line, I don't think it is. I think the ball's got to get out, and I need to see how long he held the ball, and it looked like no one was open. It was a while, and it's long enough for Villanueva to literally walk his guy all the way around to the right side. Yeah. So we'll see when we go back to the film. It doesn't matter. But before we get into the defense, I got to ask you, does Lee's have any events coming up?
So, Colt, let me ask you a quick question here. Which Baltimore Ravens running back holds the record for the most consecutive games with a rushing touchdown?
It's got to be Jamal Lewis in the early 2000s.
Right. So first of all, I just answered your question with a question, which is like awesome. No, actually, you would be incorrect. So it's actually Willis McGahee when he scored a touchdown in 7 straight games in 2007. And so on that note, Lee's Pint and Shell is excited to be starting trivia nights on Wednesdays, and that'll start this Wednesday, actually, September 29th. So make sure you stop by and have some fun with some trivia. And some pints with our friends over at Lee's. And I really hope that question comes up in their trivia night and somebody gets it right and comes back and says, thanks, Adam and Cole. I got
there that you go. From you. What the flock? We won trivia night. Love it. And so let's get right into the defense. I'm going to start with a bit of a rant. There's only so many times I can watch it before I start to lose my cool. I think I'm one of the more patient guys in the Ravens community. I'm usually pretty player friendly, but for the love of all things holy, Patrick Queen needs to make his tackles. He literally looked like a heat-seeking missile, but not like the good one where, he's just smashing guys. He was like the one that is going for his target and completely misses it. There was about 3 today where he literally is low, flying forward, and completely whiffing on his guy. I can't take it anymore. We talked about it last week. The poor tackling led to 2 touchdowns for the Chiefs. Poor tackling led to way too many. Like it's baffling to me to see a team tackle that poorly 2 games in a row. What did you think? So
it's funny. You talk about a heat-seeking missile that's not on target. So, as a Marvel junkie, it reminds me of all those Iron Man movies. Iron Man's flying around, all these missiles are following him, and he's able to dodge them, and they just keep blowing right by. And that's what Queen felt like. And I'll get crap for this too, because we don't talk poorly on the greats. But listen, every player, is NFL players not undefeated against Father Time. His tackling reminds me of late career Ed Reed, where he would just drive shoulders and swing his arm out to the side, and that was it. He's not squaring up on it. But Queen's a young guy, right? He's fast. He should be able to square up on these kids. And, we have safeties that are tackling square and playing like a linebacker more than Queen is right now. So I don't know what to think about him. It's very frustrating. You can see the teams are recognizing it and exposing it, especially in the second half, right? DeAndre Swift had a field day, and Queen's always, DeAndre Swift is down. Queen's upfield, 2-3 yards because he's already whiffed on it or made an ankle tackle barely. These shoestring tackles aren't going to be acceptable moving forward. And you can't do that against some of these better teams. They got lucky in this game against the Lions, but you're not going to be able to get away with that against, and again, I don't want to say better teams per se, but Pittsburgh and Cleveland and teams like that when we're starting to play in the AFC North.
Yeah, and I thought overall Wink Martindale had a great game. They took Hawkinson out of it. He's their best player. Swift's pushing him for that. But they basically have 2 go-tos on offense. So you take out one, you deal with the other. I thought the plan would be to bracket Hawkinson with a similar combination that they did with Darren Waller. That was super successful. And they were successful doing that. So I'll credit the Ravens defense for that. They took Hawkinson out of this game. And so I was like, okay, Queen didn't really deal with Waller. So now we have DeAndre Swift to worry about. So who's going to chase him around the field and kind of shut him down? What a perfect matchup for Queen. Use your speed, just wrap up, take him down. And of course, that's where, I'm not trying to say that the defense's fault was all on Patrick Queen. That's not necessarily it, but it's just, he's doing such a better job at reading the play, getting there.
Right.
And I'm not just saying that. You can see a very noticeable difference between last year and this year in terms of him getting to the ball. It's just about finishing. It's something he hasn't been doing. It's something he needs to do better moving forward.
Yeah, his fundamentals are notably improved. It's just his mental fundamentals are better, right? He's not doing the mental gymnastics anymore. He gets it. But the physical aspects of the fundamentals just aren't there right now. And it's funny. I don't look at this defense, and there's some aging veterans, right? But there's still a lot of good young players on this team that we have out there. But this is the second week in a row that I've watched this defense be stretched on the to the sidelines, and I look at this and I'm like, they're slow. They're just a slow running. So like Odafe away, I like watching his speed to get to the sidelines, right, and him make plays. And he'll get beat up a little bit on that DeAndre Swift touchdown because he got trucked over a bit there, but ultimately Owe had a fine day. I had no problems with his game today. But that's about it, right? Queen is fast, but he can't wrap up. Everybody else just seems to be a step or two behind. And I know you're missing a couple players out there right now, and that hurts. But it's a slow-moving defense, and teams are starting to expose that. So, again, this is where, not that we're going to jump back to offense, but when you have your offense clicking on all cylinders and firing all cylinders, that's great. You can stand the slow defense and, allowing those kind of chunk plays. But you cannot do that in a game like this, and it was very prevalent to me about how they were always a step behind, especially in the second half.
And one thing, so I think that takes care of some of the bad things that we saw. But on the good things, I actually thought the defensive line played pretty well amid everything that kind of happened this week. I mean, they don't have Brandon Williams. We know what happens when they don't have Brandon Williams. They didn't have Houston, who would have been really nice on some of those zone concepts, especially we saw the Ravens get beat a few times on the bootlegs. That's something that Houston does really well in terms of reading that, making a play off of it. So I thought, overall, Brandon Washington made Broderick Washington made a few plays. Calais Campbell, literally threw Frank Ragnow back to the sideline, and he was getting double teamed all night. It was crazy. Or all day. I'm having a day over here.
We just had 2 night games in a row to start the season. It's easy to say all night out of the back of your head,
Yeah, I also can't handle my emotions. My heart is still beating from that field goal.
I'm just seeing a ball spinning end over end still in my head. Like my loading screen.
Exactly. And I thought Ellis actually played okay. For given how much he had to take on, I thought he did quite well. Overall, defensive line did okay, and so I'll credit them amid everything for that. So,
I'm looking at the outside linebackers, and you lose Dalen Hayes early on too, and hopefully not a terrible ankle injury. It's one of those things where I'm not sure what to think because initially you see Hayes get up, pops right up, and then you see a trainer on each arm, and he walks to the sideline, and he's still putting weight on that foot gingerly, but he's putting weight on it, and I'm like, all right, ankle sprain, right? That's where my head goes, and then you hear carted off to the locker room. I'm like, oh geez. Like, I know it's a long run back to the locker room. They don't want him putting weight on the foot, but hopefully he'll be okay, right? And maybe you can correct me here because I'm still a little off on this. What is the status for next week for all of these guys on the COVID list?
It completely depends. Like, we never really heard if they were vaccinated high-risk contacts or if they were unvaccinated close contacts, which is 5 days, or if they were vaccinated or unvaccinated positives. We never really got the status. So from my understanding, if they were vaccinated high-risk contacts, they could have tested negative twice and been fine to play today. So it tells me that's not what it was. So it either tells me that they're unvaccinated or not fully immunized, because there was Houston apparently got his vaccine, his first one, when he joined the team, and he may have just gotten his second one recently and not past that 14 days to be immunized. Listen, guys, I don't know people's vaccination status. I have no clue. I barely know the darn rules. It seemed to me, I had heard a few times that Brandon Williams wasn't vaccinated. So I think he falls in that 5-day wait period where he's a close contact, unvaccinated individual. If I'm wrong, I'll eat crow. I'm not trying to talk about this guy's health status out of turn. Absolutely. Just how it looks to me. I heard the same about Matabike. If they were both close contact, didn't test positive, and they were unvaccinated, it seems likely that they're in the 5-day period, which means they would be good for next week, but weren't for this week. So that's how it looks to me.
Yeah. So the reason I ask that is because, if they have Hayes out next week, having guys like Houston back and Ferguson back would be a huge help. So, and again, having that ability to rotate, but otherwise, what do they have at outside linebacker? 3 bodies and McPhee playing on a bum shoulder. So you didn't have a lot up there, playing up front there in the outside linebacker and defensive line this week. And they still held their own. They really did.
I know. I was going to say, this is if you looked at the rushing by quarter, it's going to be highly skewed to the late second half. There is no rotation. They got tired. Like, let's be real. So, I mean, that's what it looked like to me. One thing I wanted to talk about that we haven't talked about in the last 2 weeks, but I think it's important, especially this week, is special teams. Because one thing that stood out to me was the Duvernay, the gift we got with the punt gunner ran out of bounds, and so they had to re-kick after Duvernay fumbled. They put Duvernay right back out there, and I tweeted about it. This is something that I think is really important. It's meaningful to me as a guy that's kind of played and coached. We're not here to try and punish these guys. Like, it comes down to balancing. You have trust in these guys to go out there and execute, and you want to have your best player out there. And so if Duvernay had a couple of fumbles or, more than one, I don't think he's fumbled on a punt return before. Maybe you see Prochet thrown out there. But the fact that it was literally the very next play, and they just said, look, go out there and get it done. And he ripped off like a 25-yard return. Yeah. That is so meaningful to me. And then later in the game, he catches a touchdown. Yeah. And so that to me
it was soon great. After too.
Yeah. And it's great coaching. It really is. I will ride that to my death because I've seen these situations in practice. We're not here to punish these guys. It's not you screwed up, go sit on the bench and think about what you did. That doesn't necessarily guarantee you success moving forward. You need to trust your guy. So you can't just have guys out there fumbling and, you put your arm around them and coddle them. But I don't think Duvernay was in that situation. This isn't a reoccurring thing. So they put him back out there and he made the best of it. And then he catches a touchdown. That to me is great coaching. And I thought that needed to be pointed out.
So, and I'll to that point too, there's always been a longstanding Harb's doghouse thing, right? Like that's always been a thing. And you see a player make one bad play, and if he's off the field, people immediately say, oh, it's in Harb's doghouse. And sometimes it was justifiable, right? I feel like Harb's would pull that move with some of the veteran guys a little more. But, this wasn't that. This wasn't that by any means. This was, hey, listen, you got popped loose there. Go out and show me that you can get this ball and turn it up, and we're good. So I appreciated seeing that as well. I was actually shocked. I think I tweeted that. I was shocked that Duvernay's back out there. I was. I mean, I didn't expect it. It's just not the norm, but it's good to see. It's absolutely good to see.
And before we sign off, I think the last special teams note is Justin Tucker is the greatest kicker of all time. Argue with the wall. Argue with that wall right there because I'm in the back room hiding from my daughter while we record this.
Yes, sir. I'm in a different room today too. But so on that Tucker note, it's like Duvernay, right? Duvernay runs his back, fumbles the ball, give it right back to him, and he makes something happen with it. Tucker misses a field goal early in the game, right? And it wasn't anything crazy for him in the 40s. And then he comes down, here's like 67, I got this, hits the crossbar, spins up in the air, and goes through. And we haven't watched post-game shows, obviously, from the Ravens players and anything because we're recording hours immediately following the game. But I would hope that Justin Tucker, if not today, then sometime during practice this week at the mic says, I absolutely put that kind of spin on it so that if it hit, it would go through. Like, I love his swagger, and I feel like that is something he would absolutely say. It's like, yeah, that was on purpose.
If he doesn't walk into the press room rocking opera, I'll be so disappointed in his missed of an opportunity. But that's all we have for you guys today. What'd you guys think of the game? I think, we got a lot to fix going into Denver. It's the same thing. We're going on the road. We're going to Mile High. Not an easy place to play. No. It's coming off another emotional game. The Ravens have a ton to sort out, but, luckily, I think Denver's beatable. I don't think they're playing very good football right now, but they're a beatable team, and the Ravens just need to go out, execute, and get it done.
Absolutely. Get a couple guys back healthy. We'll find out, now that we're going into week 4, some of these guys that were put on the IR to start the season, are we going to start seeing some of them return to practice this week? And if so, how close are they going to be to game shape either for Denver or the following week, which I believe is Indy, correct?
Yeah.
So those are the things that I'll be watching too this week to see who's returning and what shape and what their status will be moving forward. We get Jimmy Smith back this week. Great. Who are we going to get back next week? Could it be a Nick Boyle? Could it be whoever, right? So we'll keep our eyes on that, and hopefully they'll right the ship on a couple of these aspects of the game heading into Denver.
Love it. Love it. And that's all we have for you guys today. This is your number one spot for Ravens post-game reactions. Click the like button, hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode drop. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself.